right, folks, here we got the solutions for the SAT Math Practice 3. So our first question says the volume of a sphere is given by the formula V equals 4/3 pi r cubed, where r is the radius of the sphere. Which of the following gives the radius of the sphere in terms of the volume of the sphere? So it's asking us to solve our volume equation to get r by itself. So the first thing we need to move is the fraction. So to move a fraction across, you multiply by its reciprocal. So we're going to need a 3/4 in our answer, which means it has to be one of these two, either choice B or choice D. Then we'll have to move the pi across, so we divide by pi, which doesn't really help us because the pi is on the bottom here. But the last step is to get rid of that cubed exponent. We do that by taking the cube root, which means it must be D. Choice B is here. It looks very similar because that's the one if you forget that there's that 3 exponent and you just move the 4/3 and the pi across. Alrighty, number 2. So the table above shows the results of a survey in which the tablet users were asked how often they would watch video advertisements in order to access streaming content for free. Based on the table, which of the following is closest to the probability that a tablet user answered always, given the tablet user did not answer never? So if you look, always is 30.9, which would round to 31%, but that's wrong because this is including all of the answers, so that's why choice A is here. It's telling you that they don't answer never, so we have to ignore this amount. So we need to figure out what percent 30.9 is of the rarely plus the often plus the never. So it would be 30.9 divided by those 3 values. So if we take, let's see here, get my calculator out, 30.9, and then we divide by 24.3 plus 13.5 plus 30.9, we get about 40.45. So I'm going to go with choice C as my answer. So about half of them if we ignore the nevers. Okay, question 3, the equation above, A is a constant, the graph of the equation is the xy is a parabola, so U-shaped curve, which the following is true about the parabola. So a couple things, the coefficient out front here tells us whether the parabola opens up or down. So whether it's opening up would be a U-shape, opening down would be a upside down U. So since it's negative, this parabola opens down, which means we have to have a maximum value. This graph is going to have a peak. So it must be C or D. Now to figure out which of these two is right, you notice the only difference is that 3. You got -3 versus +3. This equation is written in vertex form. And the vertex is at the opposite of this number, comma, that number. But that doesn't really help us because these both already have A's. So the opposite of -3 is +3. So this graph has a maximum at 3, comma, A. Let's see here. Where were we? Oh, there we go. Question 4. The maximum value of a data set consists of 25 positive integers is 84. A new data set consisting of 26, so we're adding one number to our list, and we're going to add 96 to my list. So now this is the largest value. So there's 25 numbers in my list. The biggest one is 84. Now I'm going to have 26 numbers in my list, the biggest of which is 96. Which of the following measures must be 12 greater for the new data set? So mean is the average, median is the middle number, range is the difference between the smallest and the largest, and D is the difference, or the standard deviation is how far the numbers are from the average. So it's probably not these because you can't use those because both of them would essentially be true at the same time. The one actually is the range, because the range measures the distance from the smallest number to the largest number. If I just move my largest number up by 12, the range must also have to go up by 12. Okay, this one here. So Clayton will mix X milliliters of a 10% solution, so that's this part here, with Y milliliters of a 20% solution, which is that number there, in order to create a solution that's 18%, so 0.18 of the mixture. If the equation above represents a solution or situation. If Clayton uses 100 milliliters of the 20%, so that's my Y value, how many milliliters of the 10% must be used? So we're going to have to plug Y in for 10, and then from there it's just a solve the problem, which ends up, if you work it out, should be choice B. So this is a substitution, then solving. You just have to pay attention where this goes. One of these, let's see here, probably is if you plug 100 in for X instead of in for Y. But Y is the one that's 100 because it's the 20% solution. Y milliliters of 20%. Okay, the first year Eleanor organized a fundraising event. She invited 30 people. For each of the next 5 years, she invited double the number of people she had invited the previous year. If f of n is the number of people she invited to the fundraiser n years after Eleanor began organizing the event, which of the following statements best describes the function f? So A, the function f is decreasing linear function. So that means it's going down, which it can't be that because she's inviting more people. So anything that says decreasing, so A and C, are right out. B and D both are increasing, so they are possibilities. So linear means it's increasing by the same amount. The graph would be a straight line, which means the same number of new people come each year. But this thing says it's doubling each year. So the next year it'd be 60, and then 120, and then 240, and then so on, 480. So the number of people being added each year is not the same. So it can't be linear, which means it must be exponential. Usually exponential functions involve multiplying or doubling, tripling, or taking half of something. So that's the other clue that this is exponential, because it's doubling each year. Okay, so let's see here. We got this one. Some values of x and their corresponding values of y are shown in the table above, where a is a constant. If there is a linear relationship between x and y, which of the following equations represents that relationship? So let's see here. The easiest way to do this is actually to take my xy pairs and plug them into the equations to see which one generates a true equation. So for example, if I plug a in for x and 0 in for y into this equation, I get a equals a, which is true. If I plug 3a and negative a in, I get 3a minus 2a, which is a. Well, that's true. If I plug 5a in for x and negative 2a in for y, I get 5a minus 4y equals a. So this one has to be a, because it works for all three values. Now, it just so happened that in this case, the first one I tried worked. But over here, for example, if I look at choice B, if I plug a in for x and 0 in for y, I get a plus 0 equals 5a. Well, that's not true. A doesn't equal 5a, so can't be B. So we can go straight to choice A here. All right, and that's our last one? Yep. Okay. Let's see. Scatter plot above shows the number of registered voters X on the x-axis and the number of people who voted Y in the last election for 7 districts in the town. A line of best fit for the data is also shown, so that's the black line, which the following would be the equation of the line of best fit. So we notice, first of all, this line is rising, so it's going up, which means our slope has to be positive, which lets us immediately eliminate A and C, because they don't have positive slopes. So it has to be either B or D. Now, and if we look at our units, remember slope is change in Y divided by change in X. And if you start here, say at this point, I'm going up 10 and over 20. So my rise is 10, my run is 20. 10 divided by 20 is 0.5. So this one has to be B. And that is the end of our solutions.